I'm Dr. Kimberlee Mendoza, and this is another episode of Blue Fire Faith. This is like the last week of the 40-day challenge, and then I'll probably be just posting once a week something that God gives me. But today we're going to talk about dreaming big and praying hard. It says in Luke 1:37, "For nothing will be impossible with God." And so nothing is impossible. He owns it all. And so he has the power to do anything he wants. I have met people who don't really believe in miracles. I'll say something like, I'll pray for you. And then they'll be like, oh, okay, knock yourself out. But they don't really believe that prayers are answered. And I love what Forrest Gump said. Forrest Gump said, some people don't think miracles happen. Well, they do. And that's how I believe. Yes, they do. What's interesting about the story of Moses and how he came to the Red Sea and he put down his staff, we see that the waters part and everybody walks across on dry ground. Now, we've probably all heard that story. It's a common story that is shared in churches and in Sunday school and all that. But did you know, and maybe you do, but not many people do, that miracle actually happened at least 2 more times in the Bible? When Elijah put his cloak down, the water split. Elisha put his cloak down, the water split. And so the miracle's been done at least 3 times recorded in Scripture. And so what that tells me is if God can do a miracle for one person, God can do a miracle for you. Nothing is impossible. And so we have to just trust and believe that he can do it for us too. Now, looking at the walls of Jericho, I've mentioned this before in one of my videos, that, they had to walk around 7 times and then the walls would fall down. And it's interesting because God uses past tense as if it's already happened when he says, I have delivered Jericho into your hands. That's past tense in that God has already done it even before they even started walking around the walls. And so God has already done the miracle in your life. He's just waiting for you to walk in obedience and to trust him. And sometimes we stop too early. What would have happened if they had stopped the 6th time around and didn't go the 7th time around? That would have been disobedience, and God probably would not have done the miracle. I just came back from preaching about the Circle Maker. I don't know if you've read the book by Batterson, Circle Maker. Great book if you haven't read it yet. And I was talking about Honi and how it's a 1st century prophet who drew in the sand a circle and said, I'm not leaving this circle until God sends rain for the drought. And God sent rain for the drought. And so it's a great book that he wrote about that situation. And during my sermon, one of the things I brought up was, Peter and the disciples had gone out to fish all night and didn't catch anything. And Jesus said, cast your nets on the other side of the boat. And of course, Peter first said, well, we've been doing this all night. But he didn't stop there. He finished by saying, but if you tell us to do it, we'll do it. And sure enough, they caught a whole net full of fish. And I always wonder, well, what would have happened if Peter had said, no, God, I'm really tired. Jesus, I just need to go take a nap. We've already cleaned our nets. We're just kind of done for the night, rather than being obedient. And then they would have missed out on the miracle. And I think sometimes that's what we do. We have excuses for not praying. We have excuses for not getting in there and really believing, God is telling us to go over and pray for somebody. And we're like, God, I'm really tired. I mean, think of the whole, story of, the Good Samaritan is all about that. It's about religious people just like not wanting to go take the time to help a hurting man. And so someone else who's not even godly does. And that's what we need to do. We need to be obedient, listen to God, do what he's calling us to do, because if we don't, we might miss the miracle. And if God has done a miracle for someone else, God can do a miracle for you or for whoever you're praying for. For instance, Hannah was praying that God would deliver her from being barren, and he did. And that's how we get Samuel. And if God can do that for her, he can do that for you. David was, surrounded many times, almost at death. And, he prayed often, and he did feel forlorn sometimes. In Psalms, we see that. But ultimately, God delivered him, and he became king. And, Daniel in the lion's den, something dangerous was about to happen to him, but God delivered him. things happen. And Jesus healed lots of people, blind eyes and crippled people. So God can heal. And to believe that God is not still doing those things in today's society is to believe that God somehow changes. God has healed people through the entire Bible. God has done miracles through the entire Bible. So to believe that miracles don't happen today anymore is to say that God is not the same today and yesterday. And so I know for a fact he does miracles because he's done miracles in my life. I just shared a story in my sermon about how my son and I were going camping. It was pitch dark. We could not see our campground, and some guy came out of nowhere and told us where to go, and I never saw the guy again the whole entire weekend, but he showed up just for us. The next day, we didn't have enough firewood. We were like, we're going to have to go to bed at 7 o'clock because there's not enough firewood, and I kid you not, a log fell out of a tree, and we had enough firewood for the night, right as we were talking about it. And then lastly, my pants kept falling down. We wanted to go hiking, but I could not keep my pants up. I'm like, oh man, if only I had like a bungee cord or something. And I kid you not, I look up in a tree, and I don't know if you can see it, I keep a piece of it as a reminder sometimes that I need to trust God has got me, and that bungee cord was in the tree, and I was able to tie my pants, and we could go on the hike. And so, trust me, if God cares about my pants, he cares about your problems too. Some people would like to say those are coincidences, but I call them God instances, and I believe God is taking care of us, and we just need to trust him that he will help us in our miracles. So just keep praying. Don't get out of the circle. Keep praying, believing that God has got you, and he will take care of you in all that you do and say. All right. God bless you. Take care.